Hello again, it's the Java programmer, and today, now that we have our cluster, we're connected to our cluster. In this video we need to generate some data. We need to pump some data into our index, or create an index and pump some data into it so that we have some information to be able to show when we pull the stats for our cluster. So I'm going to use another library called Java Faker to do this. So if we look in our, start by looking in our POM file, we're going to add another dependency here. And that dependency is for a library called Java Faker. So it is github.javafaker. And what this gives us the ability to do is generate all sorts of fake data for our documents. And this will help because we can pump a lot of data into our cluster and test different things. So now that we have that in place, let's go and create another command in our cluster. So if we look at our grammar, and it's going to be similar to this get, but we're going to call it cluster generate, and then our first arg is going to be document amount, and then we're going to have another one that's called thread count. And so we're going to do a multi-threaded injection into our cluster. And so this new class is going to be called cluster generate data. And we're going to pass it in the doc amount and the thread count. So that looks good. Now let's actually, oops, it's generate data command. So let's go and create this. Right, now that we have our command implemented, let's make sure that everything still builds correctly. And our command processes correctly. So now let's go ahead and implement how we're going to generate our data. So in here we need a public class. We're going to call it thread worker. It's just going to be a worker that does stuff, implements runnable. This is going to add unimplemented methods. So we've got our run class, run method that it's not going to do anything at the moment. And then up here we're going to need to add a faker. This is going to be our class for generating data. Faker equals new faker. All right. And we also need a private linked blocking DQ. I'm going to use this for a queue to talk between our threads. So at this point, we need to create a document that we want to send to Elasticsearch that's going to represent our data. And so we're going to have to, I guess we could create it right inside of here. I want it to be fairly large. That way we can represent quite a bit of data. All right, so for now, let's work with this and see what this looks like. So we have our threads. We're going to stick them in here. We're going to put some entries in the queue. And so document amount. So we're going to create a new document every time, put it in the bucket. When it's done, yeah, offer. So we'll put them in the queue. And our thread, we need to pass in the queue to our thread worker so that the thread can pull stuff, create constructor, can pull stuff off the queue, yeah. All right, let's give this a try and see what happens. So we run into this error, and I forgot to extend thread on my threads remake, and we're actually able to generate, but I take a moment here to remove the print method across all of our classes because I don't make use of it, and it's just cluttering up the code. So take a minute to remove that, rebuild, everything looks good. Now in the prior section we did a print here on our generation. We did not actually send these to the cluster, we're just printing them, and you can see here's our random data. And so now we need to actually connect to the cluster and send this data in, and we do this via an index request. And so here I struggle a bit to get the index request set up correctly. And so I'm trying to figure out what the API looks like and get the request. And so that's what it looks like. You choose an index. In this case, our index name is test. And we send the document in straight in. So client index name is test, and then the document is our document that we generated. And so go ahead and build this. Everything I think turns out good. And now we're going to send some documents to the cluster. However, we fail. So I forgot to load my configuration. Now we're going to try to send it to the cluster, and there we go. We just sent 10 documents to the cluster. Now the thing is if you're going to send lots of documents to the cluster, in this case I'm going to do 10,000, you don't want to just see these documents spit to the screen. In this case I do that, but I choose to, instead of putting them to the screen, we're going to do something different here. So I created a library specifically for this kind of thing. It's called Process Display Helper. And what this library does is it's meant to display statistics about a process that's running. So in this case, you initialize it with 1,000 milliseconds. So that means it's going to report every second, assuming that items are happening that fast. Here we're going to start the process. This just initializes effectively the class. You give it a text string of what you want as the output, and then you tell it how many items. If you don't tell it how many items, it'll still work. You just don't get as good of output. In this case, since it knows what the total is, it'll calculate how fast the current process is running, and it'll give some estimated times of completion. So you start the process like that, and then when whatever you're doing is finished, you call the finish process on it, and that'll print out like how many items per second it did and so forth. And then also where you actually do an item, you call a progress process, and that doesn't always print out something, but it lets it know how far along it is in the process. So here we go ahead and we rebuild, and we're going to do a test run, I think of just a few numbers to see that our library is working. So there we go, we ran 10 items, everything looks good. So we're going to generate a bunch more. So this time we're going to go one thread for 1,000 documents. And now we go for 100,000 documents with 4 threads. And this is sped up so that you can see we're getting around 600 documents per second indexing into the cluster. And now I take out the every 1 second because I'm going to run a much larger, so we bump it up to 10 seconds. Rebuild. And now we're going to run a much larger batch. So we load our config. And this time I think we're going to generate 100,000. We're going for the full million. Now this does take a while. I think it takes about 40 minutes. So I'll just let this run and let it run to completion. So there, it completed. We pushed a million random documents into our cluster. And so this is a way to generate some test data that can be used in your cluster to do some querying. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. In our next video, I'm going to show a project that I've been working on the side along with this code that makes use of our pulling of data. It's called ES Top, or ElasticSearch Top. So stay tuned for that, and thanks again. Bye.